Okay, so my name's Adi Sedgwick and I'm part of West Team, and I was asked to choose my favourite place in West Bradford. So I've chosen Keelan Farm Shop because I pass it regularly. I often stop for a cappuccino and a bacon sandwich, and I also can do a bit of shopping in my lunch hour, obviously. It's a good place to visit. It's full of local produce. Before I joined Bradford as a trainee, I worked in secondary schools in the Derbyshire area. I've relocated to Bradford because my husband, who I married a couple of years ago, is from this area, so I've relocated. I trained at Manchester University. I've been qualified for a year now, and I'm particularly interested in the role of educational psychologists in supporting language and identifying developmental language disorder. I'm interested in implementation science, which I think comes from when I was a senior leader in schools. I had to implement a lot of change, but it was more intuitive, and now I've learned about the psychology to try and improve those skills. And I'm also interested in using frameworks to support schools when problem solving.
Okay, so this is me. My name is Nizam Hussain. I was asked to think about a place or an area in the West End which I liked, and I chose Lister Park, but with a bit of a difference. So when I started to look at Lister Park, it was initially owned by a guy called Samuel Lister, who was really prominent in the textile wool industry. And actually, it made me really think about actually why my own parents would come here. And my dad came here as an immigrant in the 70s, and he worked in a textile factory in Keighley. Then I started to look a bit further into Lister Park, and actually it was sold to Bradford Council, or City of Bradford Council, by Samuel Cutliff, who was the owner of Lister Mills, for half the price. And it just made me think about philanthropy and actually doing some good or giving something back to the place that you lived in. I like the story of the Lido because he had an open air swimming pool in Lister Park, and I only read this today, and it was quite popular in the 1915 when it opened. But after some kind of disrepair and disarray, and it needed further modifications, and it finally closed in 1991. But it's the idea of kind of change and how things have to evolve, and how kind of the community changes, the environment changes. And it also made me think, actually, for all these years, I was actually working in the 1990s. I attended school in Bradford Grammar, which is opposite Lister Park. It was a bit of a culture shock going from a school in Keighley to a school like Bradford Grammar School. But again, it's just these spaces that we share with people, and there's a history to them. It says there further down there, it's a good park, and it was nominated about 10 years ago for like the best park. So I'm interested in things like resilience, acceptance and commitment therapy, instructional psychology, getting a little bit more interested in kind of just professionalization and what that means as a profession. And sometimes, do we do things that benefit our service users, or do we do stuff that benefits our own job security? But again, I'm really interested in many, many other things, and it's hard to pin it down to 3 things. So thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Miss Khan, and I'm currently the assistant EP in the West team. I've been an assistant here for a year, but I'm now going to be moving on to start my doctorate journey as a trainee at the University of Manchester. Prior to becoming an EP, or an assistant EP, I should say, I used to work as a secondary maths teacher and did some tutoring as well. But I did take a break for a number of years when I had young children to look after them and also to run my own business. But then I came back into education, and in particular decided to follow my interest in psychology and trained to be an EP. I'm at the beginning of my EP journey, so I haven't established all of my interests as yet, but I have historically been interested in mental well-being, both of children and young people, and also of the staff within schools as well. So that would be something that would be interesting in pursuing. I speak fluent Urdu. I'm from a British Pakistani background, so I found that especially helpful sometimes in overcoming the language barriers that you can come across, especially in areas of West Bradford. And in my spare time, on a personal note, I really enjoy cooking and baking, and especially enjoy cake baking and decorating as well. I decided to focus on the very important aspect of where to get a bite to eat when you're out and about in schools in Bradford West. So I've just listed a few places that I've either visited myself or I know that other people like to go to, and are kind of, you know, good shouts for a cup of coffee or a bit of lunch at some points. So if you're in Frizinghall, you can go to your, you know, the Great Subway or the Greggs down there for a quick bite to eat. If you're in Girlington, clearly it's fast food central. So sorry, I'm being interrupted. You could go to KFC or McDonald's or possibly the cafe in the Morrison supermarket. Great Horton Road is great for a whole range of South Asian foods. You've got Chaiwala and My Lahore's down there. If you're up in Thornton, you can go to Plenty at the Square, which is all kinds of great organic and vegan food. And if you're in the office and you fancy popping out for lunch, you've got places like My Thai Cafe, the Museum Cafe, the Cake Hall, which does amazing cakes and hot drinks, or Tiffin Coffee as well. And there's also a myriad of places all over Bradford.
Hi, I'm Natasha McIntosh and I'm currently a trainee at Sheffield University. I've worked in a range of positions over the years. My main focus has been early years. I've worked in children's centres, private nurseries and preschool nurseries, and as a Key Stage 1 teacher. I decided early on that I wanted to be an educational psychologist when I graduated my psychology degree in 2008. And since then, I've been building my experience to support that career goal. I chose Bradford University because I feel that education is key to unlocking your potential. And as a young person, I was identified as someone who was on the cusp of going to university. And I was part of AIM Hire to help, I gave back to help children and young people who were also on the cusp, but they could potentially go to university, but they might not. And I think it's important that, you know, we all have equality and different options, and social justice is one of my key values. I do recognise that university isn't the route for everyone though, but I think it is one of the ways we can sort of redress the imbalance in society sometimes.
Teacher. I've taught in multiple private schools, and I was asked in my last school to work with our foundation level learners. So my main interest is in raising achievement and progress in our most vulnerable disadvantaged students. So a few facts about Holland, because this is where I worked for a number of years. Chelodine, it's a local beauty spot. There's quite a few lakes. And then another interesting fact is that there was a factory for our very famous Seabrook crisps. That was in Allerton, but it's moved now to the site in Bradford. And I thought I'd focus on the school in Allerton. Roadsway School, famous situation of Dixon's Allerton Academy. There's a few articles about Roadsway and how it was multicultural. It was one of the multicultural schools in Bradford. And then Dixon's Allerton, I was part of the journey when the school first became part of the Dixon's family. But then when it became a good school, I was also part of that journey as well. And some famous faces from Allerton. We've got Kimberly Walsh, who's famously known as one of the members of Girls Loud, and then her sisters. So we've got Amy Walsh. She was known for her role in Emmerdale as Tracy Shankley. And then Sally Walsh, I think she's the sister. and she first studied in Emmerdale as well. And I think they've both now got a brother who is also quite famous.
Okay, so this is me, Lynn Mackey, educational psychologist. Recently returned to Bradford from being in the wilderness, if you like, for some time. I don't think we can really hide from the fact that Bradford has had and continues to have many challenges, and it's actually one of the poorest constituencies across Britain. However, if we come to the other slide, I think what it has out of that adversity and diversity is reduced in some pioneering work, and I talk about Bradford West bringing out the greater good in me. And what I mean by that is, when we refer to adversity, we've developed skills like perseverance, empathy, protective qualities, and it sparks some superpowers within individuals. And I've got some examples here. So Green Lane was the first school to give out school meals. So here we have a picture, if I can get up who it is in a minute. This is the head teacher, Jonathan Priestley, who was the father of the Bradford writer J.B. Priestley, dishing out Scotch broth in Green Lane School there. We've also got the Bradford Fire at Bradford City, which is actually in Manningham in itself, brought out some pioneering revolutionary medical treatment, which is actually recognised worldwide, and it set up the first research unit in Bradford University to deal with burns. Also, we defied the odds. Bradford City defied the odds to be named the world's first UNESCO city of film, and it's kind of known in terms of the National Media Museum played a very important part of that. And when I was teaching in Bradford in Manningham, I used to take the children down to the Media Museum, and we did some really interesting work around how the children captured themselves, how their community in Manningham was represented within photographic ways. So I do feel I have a strong connection with Bradford West. I trained at Margaret Macmillan College. I learnt from and with, alongside the communities in Great Horton and Manningham, and it has brought out those greater aspects, I think, in terms of developing my compassion, my gratitude, appreciating diversity, making social connections with a wide range of people. And I suppose from a psychology point of view, that's what I want to kind of facilitate in any way I can, to support and help people to find the greater good within them and to build their resilience and move way forward in a positive, collaborative way.
Thornton is a beautiful village, despite the fact that it quite frequently rains there, and there's a little hidden gem there in that it's the birthplace of the Brontes. You have to really have a bit of a search down some windy streets to Market Street, and there you see this wonderful plaque that celebrates the Brontes' birthplace. And across Thornton generally there are some beautiful houses and an amazing grade 2 listed viaduct as well, which on a sunny day just looks magnificent. And of course Bradford holds a yearly literacy festival, which I think this year is online but is still going ahead, and it's an amazing couple of weeks. It takes over the whole of the city, so literacy really is at the heart of Bradford. I have worked in Bradford for over 20 years now, and recently I've set up Bradford Baby Bank in my spare time, and that came about because, as Lynn said, some of the poverty that I was seeing on home visits and when I visited schools, what teachers were telling me. But it has been an amazing project to start because it's made me realise the energy and passion that people and families, sometimes the most vulnerable families in Bradford, have, and how as a city we have communities that work together, even more so in recent months. During the pandemic, I have seen and been part of amazing work with different communities across Bradford, working very closely together and really strengthening partnerships that make Bradford a very vibrant, I think, and a strong city to work in.